For the last few weeks, we have been starting each weekend message with the simple question, who's our commanding officer? And we would say, it's Jesus. We'd say, what is our playbook? And then we would respond, it's the Bible. And what's our harvest? It's people. That's what we've been discovering through this book of 2 Timothy. But there's this thing that happens when you are doing a study through a book of the Bible. You don't really get to pick and choose the verses. You actually have to sit under the words that are here in this text. And I'll tell you, friends, this is a message that I've wanted to duck. This is a message that I wanted to skip a few verses because I've got a great talk on narcissism that I want to give to you. But this week, during my walk, I just felt God tell me, don't you dare duck this. You know what's going on in our world? It's crazy days. It's crazy times. I had a meeting at Starbucks recently, and someone grabbed the paper from Starbucks and starts flipping through pages. And he just looks at me and goes, Steve, is evil winning? Because it feels like that. Another person on Twitter reached out to me and said, is God taking a nap? I feel like he's just fallen asleep at the wheel. Someone reached out to me via email and said, Steve, I thought Jesus defeated evil, but why is the world in such a terrible place? What I'm realizing is many of us disciples of Jesus don't actually have the framework to understand what's going on in our world. And when we don't have the proper framework, we find ourselves standing next to our neighbors or at the water cooler or scrolling through social media or reading the paper and watching the news, and we can't necessarily understand why this is all taking place. And today, I want to give you a proper framework, straight from the scriptures, straight from 2 Timothy, straight from the Bible, to give you a proper perspective, a proper framework for how we as a church and as a people can respond to evil. Today I'm going to give you 4 marks. 4 marks, 4 specific things, tangible things in which you need to know to respond to evil. But let's jump right into the Bible. 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 1 says this, but mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. Thanks a lot, Paul. That's the way you start a message. There will be terrible times in the last days. Mark this, know this, write it in ink, inscribe it on your brain. There will be terrible, difficult, dangerous, gut-wrenching, soul-aching, bring you to your knees times in the last days. Now, for many of us, depending on where we grew up or what books we've read, we kind of think of last days and somehow it gets super unique. Maybe Armageddon or Rapture or like Left Behind, all of these, kind of stories out there. That's not what Paul is intending. That's not what Paul means. The last days was a phrase that's actually quite common throughout the scriptures. And it means a set of time, like the space of days. So let me help you understand what this means. June 6th, 1944, 24,000 soldiers. It was the largest seaborne invasion ever. It's what we know as D-Day. They stormed 5 beaches. And historians would say that it was on D-Day that Germany was defeated. But the war wasn't over. For 11 more months and 2 more days, the war went on. And it wasn't until VE Day, Victory for Europe Day, May 8th, 1945, that the war was actually over. But that space, 11 months and 2 days, were the last days of the war. Jesus lived such a compelling life, spoke about peace and grace and truth, told people about the kingdom of God and what God was actually like. And his message led to his death. He found himself being dragged outside the city of Jerusalem, up to this mountain called the Skull or Golgotha, and he hung on a cross. And clouds covered the sky. When he breathed his last breath, the whole earth shaked. Soldiers on the ground began to look up and say, "What have we done?" A few days later, Jesus resurrects. And we begin to celebrate Easter, Resurrection Day, the day evil was defeated, the day Satan lost. But here's the truth: evil was defeated, but evil was not destroyed. Satan was defeated, but Satan was not destroyed. And so we live in this gap of last days, waiting for Christ's return. Let me show you what this looks like on a drawing. The death and the resurrection of Jesus, these are the last days, this season, until Christ returns. And Paul is saying that in these last days, there will be difficult times. Dangerous, gut-wrenching, soul-aching times. And what Paul needs you to understand, the first mark is this: don't be surprised. Be sad. Be heartbroken. Cry out to God, lament and mourn, but please don't be surprised. Paul is telling Timothy, in these last days, in this season until Christ comes back, don't be surprised. He's in prison right now. He's experiencing torture. He knows that Rome is just growing in power. And their emperors, you know what they like to do? They like to parade out Christians and kill them. And he's like, don't be surprised that evil is on the prowl. Don't be surprised. Scholars have said that when Jesus came, he told us and taught us about the kingdom of God. And what really perplexed the Jewish leaders was that they had always expected the Son of God to kind of bring 6 specific truths. I'm not going to get into them. But what they see in the teachings of Jesus is that he brings the majority of them, but not all of them. And what scholars have said was that Jesus, that the kingdom of God that Jesus spoke about is both now and not fully yet. It's here, but it's not fully here. We see instances of this where people are being healed. We see instances of this where people are being set free, where people are experiencing the knowledge of God, where you see the sense of resurrection, but you also still see some of the war, the pain, the disease, the devastation. The truth is, this is where we live in this world where there is good and there is evil. Star Wars language, there is a good side and there is a dark side. And they're both evident until Christ fully returns. So when you see evil, please be sad, mourn, grieve, but don't be surprised. But what's the kind of evil that Paul says that we're going to see? And here's what he does. He lists off 18 characteristics. They're going to make you want to just numb out and not pay attention. I mean, they're heavy stuff. Look what he says. Verse 2. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Now, I'm not going to walk through all 18 of them, but I want to show you them. If you turn on the news, you open a paper, you flip through the pages, you scroll with your thumbs on social media, I guarantee you the evil that you see looks like this. And it begins here with the lovers of self, or someone has inverted the 2 great commandments. Instead of loving God with all their heart and their soul and their mind, you know what they've done? They have chosen to love themselves with all their heart, soul, and mind. People being lovers of money. They're boastful. They're arrogant. They're abusive. They're disobedient to their parents. What this means is this. Their parents have taken a legacy and they've handed it off to their kids, and their kids are supposed to take it farther, but you know what their kids do? They actually revert back. They take the story backwards. That's being disobedient to the parents. They're ungrateful. They're unholy. When someone is unholy, they rob people of their innocence. They take something from somebody else and they steal from them that sacred innocence. That's what war, that's what rape, that's what those things do. They are unholy. They're unloving, unforgiving, slanderous. Slanderous in Greek, you know what that word means? Little devil. That's what slander is. It's instead of allowing and calling out the image of God in someone else, the slanderer spews out little devil to basically shut down that imago Dei, that image of God from coming out. They're without self-control. They're brutal. There's such a brutality in our world today. And there's no sense of emotion to it. I mean, the things that I see that are going on it's just brutal. It's ugly. And Paul says, don't be surprised to this. It's going to be in these last days. They're haters of good. They're treacherous, which literally means they're traitors. They're reckless. They're conceited, prideful, and they're lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. They're like hedonists. It's all about the experience and feeding the ego and pleasure seeking. Man, this is it. Don't be surprised by this. And some people go, well, help me understand this, Steve. Because when Jesus died on the cross, wasn't evil defeated? Yes, it was, but it wasn't destroyed. And I got to give you two stories. Two stories to help you understand this. Because I need you to get this about Jesus is still on the throne. And we are called to live in these last days well. When I was in high school, there's a summer league basketball game. I was watching the varsity team play. And we were up 4 points with less than 30 seconds left when our star player stole the ball from the opposing team. He begins to take it and he goes up to dunk. And as he's going up to dunk, the guy that he stole the ball from tackles him, throws him to the ground, and punches him. And all of a sudden, our guys get up from the bench, their guys get up from the benches, the coaches start getting into it. I'm running out like, don't do it, you're gonna get suspended, what are you doing? And this thing happens at the end where the coach calls all the players together and just says this, simple words. There are some people who don't know how to lose well. And here's what I want you to know, is the enemy has been defeated, but he does not know how to lose well. He did not give up when Jesus defeated him with the death and the resurrection. He just said, I am going to try and grab hold and instill all of these 18 in people to have evil just make one last stand. And that's what we're seeing in these last days. Second story, to take it even a little bit farther. One thing that we have all had in our life is acne, and it's the worst. It is the worst. I remember 9th grade, waking up one morning, looking in the mirror, and I was like, whoa. This is not acceptable. I began to do a study on acne medication. I found out there are 3 different types. You've got the over-the-counter, you've got the specialty, like Mary Kay products that people go door to door to sell, or you've got like high-end prescription drugs. And I began to kind of understand how you prevent acne from happening. I learned about facials. I couldn't afford them, nor would I have gone to a place to get one, but I learned how to do it on my own. You just go and run the dishwasher with nothing in it. Then you open the dishwasher and allow the steam to come up. Opening the pores, it feels so good. It's very awkward when you look over and you're like, hey, Dad, how are you doing? Just giving myself a facial. And you go, you put some ointments on, but it just stayed there, the 2, the 3 zits. So I was like, I got to take this a little bit deeper, and I got to learn a little bit. So I read this report from UCLA about this new drug called Accutane. Now, I was given to severe cases of acne, and it was supposed to take it away. And I was like, yes, that's what I want. I got on the Accutane bandwagon. I went to the yellow pages, remember that? And I began to look up dermatology. I was like, Deuteronomy, dermatology, okay, I'll find it. So then I start from the back, and I start calling up numbers of these dermatologists. Start with the letter Z, I start making my way up, and I got denied, until I got to the letter C. I'd begun to master my pitch, and finally I said, hey, I know that you give this to the most severe cases. My insurance will allow me to get blood tests each week. Why not do a case study on me, on someone who has 4 or 5, and let's see what could happen. And he said, okay, if you will do this, then I'll give it to you. I couldn't believe it. I was thrilled. So I start taking this medication. The first month, I still have 4 or 5 zits. The second month, it doubles. The third month, it triples, and it starts moving onto my shoulders and my back. The fourth month, it triples from that. And I will remember getting my hair cut, and I could not even look at myself in the mirror. And I would just close my eyes and put my head down. And I'll never forget the woman cutting my hair picks my head up, and she says, look at yourself. Look at yourself. And I just said, I can't. I just can't. A few days later, I walked into the doctor's office, and I said, what is going on? I read everything. I did all of the work. This was supposed to take it away. And the doctor said something. He said, acne was defeated the day you started taking Accutane. But this is acne's last stand. And it will get worse before it gets better. And the next month, they went away. I want you to understand something. This is evil's last stand. Evil and the enemy is a sore loser. And I will tell you, friends, in the last days, it will get worse before it gets better. But the question is, how do we, as the church, respond? Because something inside of this, when we see this in the day-to-day, many of us just get indifferent. And we go, I'm just going to numb out. I don't want to deal with this at all. Some of us, we see some of this evil happening in our families, in our cities, in our governments, in the world, even in our companies. And we wonder, what are we supposed to do? And Paul says, remember these 2 guys. Remember these 2 names. Verse 8 says this, just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses, so also these teachers opposed the truth. They are men of depraved minds who, as far as the faith is concerned, are rejected. But they will not get very far because, as in the case of those men, Jannes and Jambres, their folly will be clear to everyone. So the question is, who's Jannes and Jambres? And what did they do? This is the only time that they are mentioned in the scriptures. But in Jewish rabbinic literature, these 2 men, Jannes, whose name means rebel, and Jambres, whose name means poser or counterfeit, these 2 men stood beside Pharaoh as the magicians. And when Moses and Aaron came to Pharaoh and said, God says, let my people go. Remember when Moses drops his staff and it becomes like a snake, and Pharaoh goes, well, my men can do that. And they drop a staff, and then Moses goes, hey, go eat them. And his snake eats their snake. 3 times what Moses and Aaron are able to do with the staff becoming a snake, with the Nile becoming filled with blood, with frogs being everywhere, Jannes and Jambres, the magicians for Pharaoh, could do. Which makes you wonder, man, evil does have some sense of power in our day. But it was the 4th plague, when all of a sudden Moses and Aaron say, hey, Pharaoh, you got to let our people go because there's going to be gnats everywhere. And Pharaoh goes to his 2 guys, Jannes and Jambres, rebel and counterfeit, hey, you try it. And they can't. And you know what they proclaim? This must be the finger, the hand of God. And what Paul's trying to let us know is, yes, evil for a season will rise up, but here's what you need to know. The second mark is that the truth will come out. The truth always comes out. I was sitting with a business leader and his son. And the son was kind of remarking about how frustrating it is working in this company because all of the wrong people are being promoted. He goes, why is this guy and why is she? And he begins to just paint these pictures of these two people. They don't have the character. They don't have the drive. This guy shows up late. He doesn't even finish his work. And he is making more and he is moving faster than I am. And you know what his father said? It was the CEO of another company. He said, stop looking to your right and to your left. Stop judging to the right and to the left. Stop presuming to the right and to the left. Let me tell you, over time, the truth will come out. Because it always comes out. And you have to know this, friends. The truth will come out. And it might come out that day. It might come out the next day. It might come out the following month, the following year, the next decade, or even after the person has passed. But you must know the truth will always come out. And for a season, it will feel like evil is winning, but when the truth comes out, and it will come out, you will know evil will not have the last word. Mark number 1, don't be surprised of evil. And mark number 2, how you respond is that you don't spend your attention focused on the right and to the left. You don't judge and assume. You recognize and you pray for the truth to come out. Third mark that Paul wants us to see is he then